Well, today is another day in paradise. Today's project is going to be working on the wood stove in the building. And the reason I'm pointing at the sky and the trees and all that is because I said it's another day in paradise. Um, in here, not paradise at all. But this is where I'm going to be doing some stuff. We gotta clean a lot of stuff up. Um, Freezer got to go somewhere. But anyway, we are going to be installing this. So far, we had some friends. This is actually going to be really cool. But some friends give us some wood stove chimney pieces, some 6-inch stuff. I installed a damper in here, which is just a matter of drilling a hole and threading it through there. Straightened and leveled everything out and cut a hole in the roof so I can see it from the top side. Also put down some 1/2-inch cement board. It's not quite the insulating factor that probably an insurance company would want to see, but I think it will do just fine for my purposes. The stove has been modified to be higher than it originally was, which I think is a big help, just getting the space in between there. And then it's got some nice doors, keep everything contained. We had some friends give us this stove from back in Pennsylvania. It's definitely one of the gifts I really cherish, having left Pennsylvania. It's a really nice stove. Has a electronic blower in the back, which this thing can then be hooked up to blow air. I'll probably end up doing something cool with a temperature sensor and all that stuff to tell it when to kick on and all that. But it should do pretty well in this building. We don't have insulation in here. It's pretty much impossible to get to the walls at the moment anyway. Temporary walls and some of that stuff might get built in here. This building's still kind of up in the air, but I'd like to be able to come in here and do projects and even sleep in here if needed, and have the ability to throw heat. And since we're not short on firewood, insulation isn't that big of a deal. So what we have, the only things I really ended up having to purchase was the damper and a couple sections of double wall chimney pipe. Since it's likely this stove will be going when we're not in here, as opposed to the one in the camper, I opted to purchase the proper double wall pipe. It'll also last a lot longer probably than my painted ductwork. Double wall pipe, that'll eventually rust on the camper, but the camper's pretty temporary. If it's still being actively lived in 5 years, that I'd be surprised, but anything's possible. But this building is pretty much considered permanent in my mind, so I want to do everything once and not have to do it again. Got a chimney cap, already test fitted that, already messed with an adapter going up there, getting things leveled up, and I'm going to go up on the roof and show the boot and that whole process. All right, here we are up on the roof, back in paradise. Anyway, we are pretty much all set here. Just cutting a nice round hole in the tin using this really awesome tool. It just attaches to the drill, makes little half moon shapes. Pull this out of here. But this thing's actually really cool. If I can get the camera and the drill to cooperate. It just simply moves a plunger back and forth, and that little ridge, it focuses, can't get it to go out. Anyway, there's a little ridge on that rod that just allows it to advance. And just go as fast as you can go, which looks really cool in the camera. It makes it look like it's going slow. Anyway, yeah, so that allows you to cut any shape very easily, and I didn't do a precise cut out. They actually have some kind of compass that you can drill a hole in the center, make a perfect hole, but I got plenty of coverage. I'm cutting it out bigger than I would even need to, just to keep the pipe away from the metal so the metal wouldn't get hot. Even though it's double walled, it'd be fine. But one of the important things here, and I'm actually not even sure what the traditional, if maybe this is the traditional way to do a chimney through a metal roof, but this boot, which is rated for like 450 degrees, it's just silicone, very floppy. And this is extremely flexible metal. What that does is when you're screwing it, it will conform nicely to whatever it is you go to. And of course you put some sealant underneath of it. It's got those ridges there, but these seem to work really well. And it's always good to be fairly close to the peak, that way there's less water that'll run here. But with a metal roof, it's extremely important, at least I think so, to have somewhere for the water to go. If I'd be doing it here, I'd have this lip where it would always have a small amount of water sit. And I just hate the idea of water sitting. But if I do it here, the water that piles up here should kind of spill over. And there'll probably be the tiniest amount that will be in between those. But it might not be a big deal. It's just the less water that has somewhere to sit without gravity taking it away, the better. That's just my mentality, comes from all the years of roof work I did. I have retired from roof working, despite what this video shows. Anyway, so we're going to go ahead and get this cut out, and we'll cut out this for the proper size of the chimney and start fastening things down, and we should be in good shape. All right, so got the hole cut out, and now we're putting the sealant on the boot. Make sure you use a very high quality sealant. There's plenty of different things out there. I really like this stuff. It's 10 bucks a tube. It's pretty expensive, but sure beats coming up and redoing it sometimes, spending a bunch of time scraping off silicone or some other non-roofing product. Not that this thing's meant for roofing either, but it sticks to stuff that's wet. It's waterproof immediately. It's high quality, and I've never had this stuff leak on me. Plenty of other stuff out there. Just don't use what's cheap, or you're going to end up, you'll have the same cost in it till you redo it again with the same cheap stuff. It'll cost just as much as the good stuff would the first time. So even though I'm homesteading and cutting corners, certain things you just can't cut corners on. So, all right, let's finish gluing this up and get her in there. All right, so you can see we've gotten started with the screws. Make sure you put enough of them in. You can hardly put too many in. Make sure you're getting it oozing out a couple places. That shows you've got enough on there, particularly on the top edge. All this stuff's real critical. Make sure you've gotten it pushed down everywhere, at every point. I just use this tool just because it's easier to make sure. Just make sure it is laying flat. And I'm actually going to come along and put the tiniest bead here as well, just as extra. Theoretically it's not necessary, but while I'm up here, why not? And yeah, plenty of screws. I'm going to put in a bunch more. So there we have it. Got extra sealant smeared everywhere. Got it all pushed down, screwed. Probably have over 30 screws in this. Couple of little notes. You could probably use a better screw than what I am. This is basically to go through metal and hit wood lath. They make self-tapping screws just for metal. That may be a better option because we're not catching any wood here. But I'm not too concerned about it. I don't think it's going anywhere. The other thing I was gonna make note of, you should either make sure that this thing is perfectly square like this. If you have one end that's kind of cocked, it would kind of maybe puddle a little water. Probably wouldn't be too bad though. I really don't. If you're using a good sealant and your roof is sloped, you're probably going to get away with a lot. The other thing you could do, you could actually install it instead of a square, you could do more of a diamond shape where you put the corner up here and had each piece going like that. It wouldn't work on one quite this size because if I had to put this across the corner, it would have overlapped over the rib. It was actually my preferred option was to put it on diamond shaped, but when I got up here and held it over it, I realized it was going to be more of a water trap than not. So this is pretty much the best way I think I could do it. They make, at least I think they make, for shingle roofs, I'd never do anything like this. You'd make a kind of a peak here with a slope on either side, and that would just force water to not even get to this point. But this seems to be at least a way that people do it with metal roofs, and I've not had any trouble with the one I did in the camper, and I suspect I won't have any trouble here. So, alright, that's pretty much it from the outside. Just gotta cut this out and shove my chimney pieces through, and we should be in good shape. Alright, we huffed and we puffed and we got the 2 sections of that stuck through. That was kind of a real pain in the neck by myself, standing on top of the stove and shoving real hard with the line of the stovepipe adapter, cutting my hand, but we shoved it up through and set it right down on, and it was good. One of the things I did want to mention, when you go, you need an adapter from the 6-inch to, the 6-inch single wall to the 6-inch double wall. You need an adapter to go to that, but it's pretty important not to forget the clamp, which grabs both of these lips here and just holds them together. Not only does it turn and lock in, but that'll also just help hold it together. It's just kind of a weak pivot point, which, I don't know, the 6-inch doesn't seem to wiggle much, but it's just something I'm thinking about, is I need to make sure that this thing is somehow held rigid. And I'm pretty cheap. I didn't feel like spending the $80 for some bracket from this stuff to tie to the exterior of the roof. I'll probably end up doing something because that boot doesn't provide tremendous amount of support. High winds and stuff are something to think about, and I don't think my stovepipe is quite level, so I'm going to have to shift the stove back an inch or so, I bet. But yeah, we're getting it together. Okay, here we are. Got the cap put on there. I'm actually not sure if this band is supposed to be up here closer to the top or down there next to these, or if it even matters at all, but at any rate, it's on there. I do not have a spark arrestor on this cap, and I'm not too concerned with the embers falling and burning a hole in my roof either, so plus, you know, watch the wood you burn and all that good stuff. Got pretty lucky with this. The joint in my pipes, it wouldn't have been real nice to have it at the rubber here, or at the silicone boot. Probably would have created some leakage areas, so I'm pretty fortunate on that. Unfortunately, when I was cutting this, I was not as careful as I should have been, and I got a little nick with my knife, which is starting to split and will likely leak at some point. So I'll probably actually finish cutting it down to here, because it's going to go down there anyway, and then put a little bit of sealant in there just to make sure the drop or two that would make it in there won't do that. The other thing that you should have, and I'll probably make one sometime out of aluminum coil stock, is a storm collar. And that's just a piece of metal that comes down on an angle all the way around, so the water comes down here, hits it, and then flares out and then drips down here instead of all running here and then running off. Just limits the amount of water that's allowed to contact that. So, but there we go. We're 2 feet above the roof line, which is required. I actually think we're a little bit, I don't know, they probably go to the top of the chimney. We're probably close with that. Hard to say, I didn't bring my tape measure up here, but we're probably real close there. Of course, required by code and what I can do back here are 2 different things, so that's why I don't have to be overly concerned about that. That just helps make sure that you have a good draft and everything. But that's a lot of the reason I wanted to make sure I had a double wall pipe, particularly on the outside here, is the pipe cools real rapidly. If it's exposed to the winter air, and that can be pretty annoying. It just ends up, sometimes you can lose your draft or not get as good of a draft, as well as it cooling faster means more crud will stick to the pipe as your pipe gets cooler and everything condenses and stuff starts sticking. So anyway, that's pretty much it. I'm going to move the stove, straighten it out, probably add some kind of bracing somewhere. Haven't figured out how I'm doing that, and we're still a month away from thinking about running this, so I have a little time. But that was pretty much the basics of it. Hope it was informative. Thanks for watching.